Imagine just for a second that you are 24 years old. You have just lost your mother, which is obviously devastating enough all on its own.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. You're grieving. You're trying to figure out how to just navigate this massive, sudden hole in your universe. And then you discover something completely terrifying.
Yeah, the real nightmare begins.
Exactly. You find out that the people you are supposed to trust, like the people who literally stood right beside you at the funeral, are quietly, methodically building a legal case to strip away your entire life.
It sounds like the plot of a thriller, I know. But it is a very real, incredibly chilling scenario. It hinges on the manipulation of the very legal and financial systems that were, originally designed to protect vulnerable people.
Welcome to this deep dive. Our mission today is to examine a real-life account of an attempted emergency conservatorship. We are going to break down the actual mechanics of how a manipulative guardian attempted to weaponize a young woman's grief. And, more importantly, we're going to look at how that victim systematically dismantled his plot, basically using a paper trail generated by his own hubris.
The sources we are looking at today provide a really remarkable case study. I mean, it's a masterclass in understanding both the psychology of coercive control and the critical importance of digital and legal literacy in the modern world.
Yeah, so let's look at the key figures in the documents. The primary target here is Amelia. She's 24, recently orphaned after the sudden death of her mother. And the sources note she suffers from panic disorder following a previous car accident.
Which is an important detail for later.
For sure. Then we have Raymond Vale, her stepfather. Raymond attempts to use Amelia's quiet nature, her trauma, and her active grief as literal proof of legal incompetence. Okay, let's unpack this, because reading through these sources, this feels like a psychological heist.
A heist, that's a good way to put it.
Right, because instead of blowing the doors off a bank vault to steal cash, the thief is trying to steal the vault owner's actual identity and autonomy in broad daylight.
Yeah, and if we run with that heist analogy, it's actually far worse than just stealing the contents of the vault. I mean, a conservatorship or a guardianship, depending on the state, is a legal mechanism where a judge essentially strips away your legal personhood.
Wow.
Yeah, the state declares you incapacitated. That means you no longer have the right to even own a vault. You can't sign a contract, you can't choose where you live, you can't access your own money. So to execute a heist of that magnitude, Raymond first had to convince the world that the owner of that life was completely unfit to hold the keys.
Which brings us to his preparation, because like any sophisticated heist, the first step is cutting the alarm wires, right?
Exactly.
And looking at the sources, Raymond began laying this groundwork long before he ever filed a single piece of paper in a courtroom.
He started by combining financial abuse with intense psychological isolation. I mean, the goal of this early phase is to create a closed ecosystem where the abuser completely dictates reality.
So let's look at the specific mechanics of how he boxed her in, because it is incredibly methodical. Amelia walks into her own kitchen one afternoon and finds Raymond packing up her mother's wedding silverware into cardboard boxes.
Just boxing it up.
Right. And he writes estate storage on the side with a thick black marker. Now, keep in mind, the house was left entirely to Amelia. But when she confronts him, he doesn't apologize. He just tells her she isn't emotionally equipped to manage the estate.
What's fascinating here is the insidious nature of the reframing. Abusers will frequently take completely natural human emotions and reframe them into medical symptoms.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Amelia is experiencing grief, but Raymond tells her that her grief makes her remember things, quote, the way she needs to remember them. He is planting the seed right to her face, that her grip on reality is distorted.
And he makes sure she can't get a second opinion on that reality either. He actively cuts off her access to the outside world. He intercepts her probate correspondence, claiming he's, screening it so she doesn't spiral from stressful information. But I have to ask, how does someone even do that in the modern era? You can't just stand by the mailbox 24/7.
Well, you don't have to. The mechanics of isolation are actually surprisingly bureaucratic.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, an individual living in the same home can easily set up mail forwarding through the Postal Service online, just routing specific documents to a P.O. box. Or, more simply, they just change the physical lock on the mailbox.
That's terrifying.
It is. Raymond also changed the passwords to the shared digital portals. This is a classic control tactic dressed up as caretaking. By deciding what she is and isn't allowed to see, he entirely controls the narrative of the estate.
And he goes even further than that. Like, Amelia tries to call the estate attorney her mother had used for years, and the phone number is completely disconnected. Again, Wait, if someone is genuinely worried about a family member's mental health, they don't sever their connection to legal counsel.
No, absolutely not.
At what point does protection just become a hostage situation?
It absolutely is a hostage situation. Disconnecting that number, likely by canceling the home landline plan where the contact was saved, or porting the primary contact number for the estate that isn't about keeping Amelia safe.
Right.
It removes her ability to verify the truth. He is actively manufacturing her dependency on him.
He even weaponizes her physical reaction to trauma. Like, at her mother's funeral, Amelia shook so badly that her aunt had to walk her outside. Honestly, that is a completely human reaction to profound loss,
Oh, totally.
especially for someone with a documented panic disorder. But Raymond cruelly brings it up later, telling her that half the town saw it. He calls it evidence, not grief, evidence.
Because he is building a false narrative for the
Right.
bystanders. I mean, to successfully petition for a conservatorship, you need witnesses who will at least passively agree with your assessment.
Right, he needs the crowd on his side.
Exactly. Raymond needs the neighbors, the extended family, the people in their town, to view Amelia not as a grieving 24-year-old, but as an unstable, fragile person who requires a firm, guiding hand.
But Raymond had a problem, though. Because Amelia owned the house outright, shutting her in wasn't a permanent legal fix.
Right.
To convince a judge she was entirely incompetent, he needed a public record of failure. And the easiest place to manufacture a public failure is at someone's job.
Which represents a massive escalation.
Mhm.
He's moving from private manipulation to public professional destruction.
Yeah, imagine you walk into your office on a random Tuesday. You're just trying to get through the workday while grieving. But your boss, Daniel, and the HR director are waiting for you in a conference room.
Just a nightmare.
Raymond has actually called Amelia's architecture firm. He claimed there was an active court matter regarding Amelia's decision-making, and he forwarded his emergency petition directly to her employer.
This really raises an important question about how easily reputations can be damaged by the mere implication of legal action. I mean, Raymond tells her boss that Amelia shouldn't be handling client budgets. He claims she lost a client deposit and that she'd been missing her own rent payments.
Which is an incredibly bold lie. She literally owns the house she lives in.
Exactly.
There is no rent to miss. But I want to focus on Amelia's defense in this moment because it is brilliant. She doesn't scream. She doesn't break down crying.
Which is exactly what he wanted.
Exactly. That's the reaction Raymond was counting on to prove his point to HR. Instead, she opens her laptop right there in the conference room. She logs into the project management system on the spot and pulls up the account history. She proves, with absolute data, that every payment is reconciled, every invoice is approved, and absolutely no deposits are missing.
That reaction completely short-circuits Raymond's strategy. Abusers rely on the emotional chaos they create. You know, Raymond was using partial truths like her known history of panic disorder and mixing them with absolute fabrications about her financial competency.
Right.
The goal wasn't just to fool a judge down the line. It was to create a cloud of suspicion. He wanted her boss, her coworkers, and neighbors, like there's a Mrs. Keller mentioned in the sources, who starts treating Amelia with extreme caution. He wanted them all to hesitate.
Because if they hesitate, he wins.
Exactly. When people hesitate, the abuser gains control of the timeline.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Raymond has spent weeks trying to brand Amelia as mentally incompetent, confused, and prone to hysterics. Yet Amelia's reaction to this extreme, traumatizing workplace sabotage was completely logical and data-driven. She bypassed the emotion entirely and pulled the receipts.
It highlights the supreme irony of coercive control. The person being painted as hysterical is acting with cold, hard logic, while the person claiming to be the rational, level-headed protector is spinning a web of chaotic, easily disprovable lies.
But Raymond's aggressive move at her workplace fundamentally changes the dynamic. Amelia realizes she isn't just dealing with an overbearing stepfather, she is on a ticking clock to save her own life.
Yeah, the stakes are suddenly real.
The narrative shifts from Amelia playing defense to actively hunting for the truth in the 11th hour.
Fortunately, one of the bystanders doesn't buy Raymond's narrative. Amelia's mother's hospice nurse, someone who, operates in a medical capacity and likely recognized the signs of manipulation, slips Amelia the contact information for Nora Patel, an attorney at Legal Aid.
And Nora immediately understands the gravity of the situation. She knows how fast these emergency petitions move.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, emergency conservatorships operate on a mechanism called an ex parte motion. In plain terms, this means a judge can make a temporary ruling based on the claims of only one party without the other party even being present.
Which sounds crazy when you say it out loud.
It does. The legal system allows this because it is designed to stop imminent harm. Say, someone with severe dementia wandering into traffic or being actively scammed out of their life savings. It operates on an act now, verified later principle.
Okay, I see.
But that very design creates a massive vulnerability, a loophole for bad actors like Raymond to exploit.
And Nora knows that if Raymond gets that temporary authority, he can legally drain Amelia's accounts, medicate her, or remove her from her own home while they spend months trying to fight it out in court. So Nora goes on the offensive. She files a formal objection, she subpoenas Amelia's real therapist, and she formally requests verification of all the medical attachments Raymond submitted to the court.
And it is a very good thing she moved with such urgency. Because by the morning of the hearing, the bureaucratic gears of the system are already starting to crush Amelia, like completely on autopilot.
This part is terrifying to me. At 7:18 a.m. on the morning of her court date, Amelia tries to get a ride share to the courthouse, and her payment fails.
Yeah.
She opens her banking app and sees a red banner across the screen that says, "Account under protective review." Raymond had somehow managed to freeze her debit card before the judge had even ruled. Nora actually has to send a driver to go get her.
I need you to explain this to me because I'm genuinely confused and a little outraged here. How does a bank legally freeze an account just because someone filed a piece of paper? A judge hasn't even seen this yet.
It feels completely rigged, right? But it comes down to corporate liability and automated algorithms.
Algorithms, of course.
Yeah. Financial institutions have automated risk mitigation systems. When an attorney files an emergency petition for conservatorship, they often notify the bank simultaneously. The bank's algorithm flags the account for asset depletion risk.
The bank doesn't care about guilt or innocence. They care about not being sued for letting an allegedly incapacitated person empty their accounts. So they preemptively freeze the assets. It is a systemic flaw that assumes the petition is filed in good faith, which ironically aids the actual fraudster by cutting off the victim's resources at the exact moment they need to hire a lawyer.
You haven't even seen a judge, and your money is just gone. And Raymond was so confident in the system working in his favor that he tries to corner Amelia in the courthouse hallway before the hearing even begins.
Yep.
His attorney offers a plea deal, a 6-month temporary conservatorship. They promise Raymond will just manage the housing, the medical appointments, and the estate. And in exchange, they avoid a public hearing and testimony.
It's a classic intimidation tactic. They're basically saying, just surrender quietly and we won't embarrass you on the public record. But Nora aggressively rejects it. She understands the mechanics of the legal system better than Raymond does. Signing away objections means nobody checks Raymond's evidence.
And we are about to find out exactly why checking that evidence is so vital. This brings us into the courtroom itself, where all of Nora's rush subpoenas from the day before finally detonate Raymond's entire plan.
The courtroom showdown is a masterclass in dismantling a fabricated reality. Raymond takes the stand and puts on a very rehearsed performance. He speaks sorrowfully, He claims Amelia is dangerous to herself, that she forgets meals, that she panics around strangers. He plays the role of the burdened, loving caretaker perfectly.
But the judge abruptly stops the hearing. He stops Raymond's attorney mid-sentence. Why? Because, prompted by Nora's filings, the court actually took the time to verify the medical evaluation Raymond had submitted to prove Amelia was incapacitated.
And this is where the veneer of authority completely crumbles. The legal system relies heavily on paperwork, looking official, letterheads, medical jargon, signatures. But when challenged, it has to hold up to scrutiny. The court contacted the therapist listed on Raymond's filing. The real therapist confirmed that, yes, she treated Amelia for panic attacks after a car accident. But she absolutely never diagnosed incapacity. She never recommended a conservatorship. And most importantly, she did not sign the petition Raymond submitted.
It was a total forgery, a counterfeit key to the vault. And once Nora starts pulling at the thread, the fatal flaws in Raymond's forged document are exposed for the public record. First, the medical license number on the evaluation didn't even belong to Amelia's therapist. It belonged to a retired psychiatrist in a completely different county.
Unbelievable.
Right. Second, the clinic address existed, but the specific medical department named in the report was entirely made up.
And perhaps the most glaring, sloppy error of all. The forged letter referred to Amelia by her married name.
Right.
Amelia had never been married.
I am just struck by the audacity of it. I mean, how does someone orchestrate this massive manipulative scheme, successfully gaslighting neighbors, intercepting federal mail, manipulating corporate banking algorithms, sabotaging her at work, and then makes such elementary, stupid mistakes on the official legal documents.
It comes down to the psychology of the fraudster, which is rooted in profound arrogance. Raymond was so deeply confident in his ability to manipulate the people in Amelia's daily life that he assumed the legal system would be just as easily swayed by his performance.
He thought he was untouchable.
Exactly. He operated under the assumption that because Amelia was young, actively grieving, and had a known history of panic attacks, she was defenseless. He believed nobody would ever bother to look past the letterhead and check his sources. He thought his word was law.
But he forgot to cover up the actual motive. The paperwork was sloppy because he was focused on the prize, which was the money.
Always the money.
Nora presents the court with bank records showing recent estate transfers. These transfers were labeled as home repairs. But those funds weren't going to contractors. They were routed directly to the bank account of the fake clinic Raymond had named in his forged documents.
The financial trail is almost always the ultimate undoing in these cases. Nora points out to the judge that the estate trust required a full financial accounting within 30 days of Amelia's mother's death. Raymond didn't want this conservatorship to protect Amelia. He needed it to delay that financial accounting.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Right. If he became her conservator, he controlled her ability to object, and he gained the legal authority to approve his own explanations for all the missing money he had already siphoned off.
So, what does this all mean? It means Raymond's entire facade shatters right there on the stand. When Nora lays out the mechanical truth of what he did, the intercepted mail, the false claims to her employer, the altered bank access, the diverted funds, Raymond realizes he is trapped.
He's cornered.
Yeah. He weakly tries one last time to use Amelia's emotions against her. He looks at her from the stand and says, quote, "You panicked in front of everyone," referring to her shaking at her mother's funeral. And Amelia delivers an absolute mic drop moment. She doesn't scream, she looks right back at him, her voice perfectly steady, and says, quote, "Because she was dead."
It is an incredibly powerful moment of reclamation. I mean, in 4 words, she strips away all the medicalized, weaponized language Raymond used to describe her. She returns her grief to its simple human truth.
Yeah.
She panicked because she suffered a traumatic loss. It wasn't a symptom of legal incompetence. It was a symptom of being a human being who deeply loved her mother.
The judge immediately denies the emergency conservatorship on the record. He strikes all of Raymond's forged medical attachments from consideration, ensuring they don't taint her future record. And he refers the forgery for a formal criminal investigation. The immediate fallout is swift and absolute. Raymond physically drops into his chair, his knees just failing him. His own attorney, realizing he has just been made an unwitting accessory to fraud, requests to withdraw from the case immediately.
Wow.
Yeah. The judge completely removes Raymond from any control over the estate and appoints an independent administrator on the spot.
Raymond is barred from the property. He is barred from contacting Amelia about the estate. And 3 days later, the sources note he sends her one final pathetic text message that truly reveals the core of his motivation. He writes, quote, "I only panicked about money."
I only panicked about money. While he spent weeks trying to convince the entire world that Amelia was the one having panic attacks, he was the one driven by a desperate, greedy panic of his own.
The psychological projection in that final message is astounding. He took his own internal chaos and tried to legally bind it to her.
Amelia's lawyer, Nora, saves that text for the fraud investigator, and Amelia just deletes his contact. The sources describe this incredibly poignant aftermath. Amelia is sitting at her mother's kitchen table. The house, the trust, her doctors, her daily schedule, her name, they are all finally hers.
Which is how it should have been from the start.
Exactly. She notes that her panic attacks didn't just magically vanish because a judge believed her in court. But they are hers again. They aren't leverage. They aren't a carefully curated story for Raymond to sell to the neighbors or an HR department. She walks to her front door, turns the lock from the inside, and realizes she needs no one else's approval to exist.
It is a hard-won piece, and she earned every bit of it. But, for the rest of us, this case serves as a crucial systemic reminder about the fragility of our own autonomy. The very systems that are designed to protect the vulnerable, like emergency ex parte courts and algorithmic banking security protocols, they can be seamlessly weaponized by the people closest to us.
It's a scary thought.
It really is. It underscores exactly why we must be fiercely protective of our own data, our legal documents, and our rights.
Absolutely. It makes you realize how easily your own life could be twisted into a weapon if you aren't paying attention to the mechanics of the systems around you. Which leaves us with a chilling thought for you to mull over. We all have medical records, we all have digital footprints, terrible days, and moments of deep, private emotional vulnerability. If someone living under your roof decided to curate only your absolute worst days, your deepest grief, and your private medical history into a highly official looking legal file,
Mm.
uh, how easily could you prove your own sanity? It's something to think about the next time you assume the vault protecting your life is safely locked.